You're watching NewsX. My name is Vineet Malhotra. Penpa Tsering, President of the Central Tibetan Administration, offered to send a team to Lhasa to verify claims made by Beijing in its much publicized white paper on Tibet. The white paper, Beijing's counter to criticism of its repressive regime in Tibet, underlined how China had built villages of moderate prosperity, airports, highways along the 4,000-kilometer border of Tibet, a large part of which aligns with the disputed boundary with India. And before China's intervention, the paper insisted Tibet was a wretched and backward feudal serfdom that was doomed to die out. Tsering has promised that he will use all his energies to find a lasting solution for the Sino-Tibet conflict and the welfare of the Tibetan people. So China once again making false claims that all is well in Tibet. And had they not been there, well, Tibet would have been a wretched country. Well, the world has been wretched by China. It's not only Tibet, the entire world is suffering because of COVID-19, and that's what China's legacy is. We'll talk about Tibet specifically with our notable guest. Joining me on the platform is Mr. Vijay Kranti, senior journalist. He's a senior Tibetologist and chairman, Center for Himalayan Asian Studies and Engagement. Also joining us on the show is Namgyal Dolkar, Member of Parliament, Tibet Government in Exile. Also joining us on the program is Tenzin Sundu, Tibetan writer and activist. Mr. Kranti, let me start by asking you a simple question. China's claims about anything today, or for that matter, even in the past or in the future, stand to be verified. How ridiculous is this idea of this white paper which China has presented time and again to the world, including the Americans and the UN, that what they have done in Tibet is actually of any value?
Anybody who has a little bit knowledge of the real situation inside Tibet, the policy China has been adopting over the last 70 years since they occupied and colonized Tibet, they would laugh at this white paper. I won't be very impolite if I say that this white paper is a bunch of white lies and an attempt of whitewashing all the sins, injustice and atrocities the Chinese have been committing consistently on the people of Tibet as occupied people. So this white paper, in my opinion, is a whitewash, is an attempt to divert attention of the world from their own sins in Tibet. And I think these claims of China somewhere put the whole world to shame, that they have been so indifferent. The whole world has been indifferent to Tibet and its hunger for freedom. So this is now high time. The world should wake up when China is making so much noise about Tibet. The world should compel China to let the world see what is the reality. Let the journalists go there. Let the diplomats go there. They don't allow a journalist even to apply for visa. They don't allow a diplomat even to apply for visa to go to Tibet. Even journalists, PTI, Hindustan Times, Hindu, etc., those who are stationed in Beijing, they are not allowed to enter Tibet. Whereas their journalists stationed in New Delhi are free to go everywhere. This is time for the world to wake up and find out the reality. Force Chinese government to let the world know the reality. If they are really sure what they are claiming in in this white paper, they should have been first to open Tibet to the whole world and see here is a heaven, where every Tibetan is in Hindi. If I say it's a Swarg and every Tibetan is a Swargvasi there. They should have opened it. That's my take on the first take on this.
Absolutely. And Namgyal, Mr. Tsering has said that he's going to be following a middle path. He said he's going to reach out to the Chinese government for a mutually beneficial and negotiated non-violent solution to the Sino-Tibet conflict. Is that a possibility considering how China is?
Well, Vineet, what we saw from the white paper of this time is, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. So what we've seen this time with the white paper is, again, Chinese Communist Party is trying to justify their forceful annexation of Tibet by calling it a peaceful liberation. And I think we have to know that when we're talking about middle way approach, having a dialogue with Chinese Communist Party, it's an attempt, repeated attempt by His Holiness and the exiled Tibet government to resolve this Tibet-China issue through a ground which is mutually beneficial, which is non-violent, more importantly. And I think not many.
Okay, Namgyal, you're cracking up. There seems to be an issue with your internet. If you can reconnect or reboot your system, we'll come back to you momentarily. Right, Namgyal, you're breaking out. There seems to be a problem with your internet. Relog in, and we'll take your opinion then. Tenzin, your thoughts on the white paper and how China continues to say that if it wasn't for them, Tibet would have been a playground for disease and lack of progress.
Well, white paper for China is an attempt to whitewash the blatant human rights violations and random mining that is happening all across the Tibetan plateau. I'm someone who's born in India, educated here, but I went to Tibet. I've seen the situation there. I've also been in Chinese jail inside Tibet. So I know the ground realities and the situation prevailing there. What China is saying today with this white paper is they are trying to, because they're very insecure, they are trying to legitimize what they have done, which is, in reality, blatant mining, human rights violations, bringing Tibetan people to a point that 155 Tibetans burned themselves in self-immolations in protest against the ongoing 70 years of Chinese occupation of Tibet. And in order to whitewash that, they are trying to release such kind of paper. They think with that kind of paper, they can fool the world. That's not true. And in reality, because they are losing control on the ground, they are forcibly making every Tibetan house to hoist the red flag, Chinese national flag. And they know this, they're trying to impose on the people this. They think they're going to gain some kind of patriotism in the people. But in fact, people hate the government. And this is not just Tibetan people. People in East Turkestan, who's been under Chinese occupation like Tibet for 70 years. And the Chinese people themselves, 1.4 billion people in China, they cannot question the government. There is no freedom, there is no democracy, there is no freedom of expression. Discussions like I and you, we are having now on openly in India, not possible in China at all, not possible at all. So what China is trying to do with this white paper is to whitewash all their sins and atrocities they are doing in Tibet for the past 70 years.
Mr. Vijayakranti, the Americans have taken a keen interest in liberating Tibet. They have taken a keen interest in acknowledging the grievances that Tibet has been facing, specifically when it comes to the Chinese occupation. And that has happened in the last 1 year to 18 months, ever since COVID-19 came out, and the world has been antagonistic against China and its aggressive behavior. Is that a good thing going forward in terms of making sure that the way China has been behaving, or at least the lies that China has been precipitating and perpetrating, are exposed to the world?
I've seen always in life that a one person's cause, a just cause, will not become a reason to act for others unless it becomes their interest. For last at least 30, 40 years, Americans have been gaining out of helping China, rehabilitating China, giving it respect which it never deserved, giving it powers in the United Nations, giving it the Western technology, Western investment, even Western markets. So they created a Frankenstein in the hope that they will gain something, they will make more money, and it will civilize the Chinese. They will become more answerable to word opinion. They will become a little more somewhat democratic. So all that has failed. And now the way China is threatening America, the way China is threatening the entire Western bloc, Europe, Japan, Australia, now these countries are suddenly realizing that they are facing a Frankenstein. So when you see that the American Congress, when they were fighting with each other, the Republicans and Democrats, there was even impeachment process going against President Trump. Even at that time, Republicans and Democrats joined hands. They cooperated with each other in the house, both houses, and they came out with a very powerful resolution against China on Tibet. And President Trump didn't take any time. The very first thing he did after Christmas was to sign this bill and make it a law, that what you call the U.S. policy on Tibet and support and act policy on Tibet. So that only shows that the world is now realizing the real nature of China. The way China has inflicted physical and mental and economic injury to the whole world through COVID. Now the world is realizing. And I think this is the right time for countries like Tibet, countries like East Turkestan, which China calls Xinjiang, countries like South Mongolia, and even for Taiwan and Hong Kong to expect help from the whole world. If America or Western countries don't act this time, they will be committing harakiri. Because after this, you will have a China whom nobody can handle. And China will swallow everything. So this is the last chance for America, for Europe, for Japan, for Australia, for India to join hands and handle this Frankenstein head-on. And here we see the best chance for Tibetans today, because unfortunately, they have been getting only lip service. No country helped them in the real terms. So now when it has become the cause of the rest of the rest of world has to stand up against China. And this is time when Tibetan government in exile, the Tibetan people in exile have to stand up unitedly, and they should not be, busy in, petty things. Now they should go head on against China.
Absolutely. Now, Gyal, if there was ever a time to build a case for Tibet, it is right now. We have seen the Quad coming together. We've seen countries, including Southeast Asian countries, who deemed China to be their friend, but are extremely livid and upset with the kind of behavior and the kind of, inaccountability that they have shown when it comes to COVID-19. They're not letting you find out where COVID-19 originated from. They're not giving you exact numbers of how many people died or how many people were actually contracted. They still have 1 lakh people who were infected with COVID-19. We had almost 2 lakh people in one day in the last 24 hours. It's hard to believe that China can perpetuate such lies and get away with it. And, the point I'm trying to make is that, there is a window open right now. And how can people like you and Tenzin make sure that this window is exploited, and it's exploited against the Chinese interests and in favor of Tibetan interests?
Oh, well, Vineet, for the past 70 years, Tibetans in diaspora, particularly Tibetans in Tibet, we have been making an effort to open the eyes of the international community, especially the leadership, and let them know what is happening inside Tibet, what is happening to the Tibetans, what we have experienced 17 years back through the 17-point agreement. We are trying to let the world know that having any sort of agreement with Chinese Communist Party, it's not possible to apply it. Hence, we have now, we must realize now that there is a need of reciprocity in terms of relation with Chinese Communist Party, where, we must let them know that, we're not going to take any sort of bully from you. Right now, the world is entirely succumbed in the China COVID, and we know that we are unable to solve this issue. And recently, now we have been informed that that is caused by the Chinese community. We can do as Tibetan community is just inform you that we have to open our eyes. We cannot solely be thinking about our economic gains and not think about 10 years down the line how the Chinese Communist Party is going to treat you after how they have treated us, the Tibetans.
Absolutely, Tenzin. This dependence that China has created to the world is perhaps the reason why nobody has acted against them. And do you think, in your opinion, this decoupling exercise, which has been promulgated and in a way also initiated by countries like India and Australia and the Americans, is going to eventually help the world come together and figure out a way in resolving the issues between China and Tibet as well? India has already invested into this issue, but India alone cannot do the world's job.
That is true. For a very long time, what we as Tibetans, as direct victims of Chinese invasion, occupation, and expansionism, we've been speaking about it for 70 years, that China cannot be trusted. China has this diabolical ambition to rule the world. And this is exactly what they're doing after 70 years. They are now aiming to topple America and lead the world. And they have a roadmap to it. Now, internationally, slowly, and that too after pandemic, people around the world are realizing this, the true nature of Chinese expansionist designs. Internationally, they are realizing this. And therefore, just like you said, countries like United States, Great Britain, Canada, Australia, Japan, and now European Union are slowly phasing out from trading with China or creating trade blockages. And therefore, countries like India, Vietnam, Mexico are going to gain. And if India is able to build that favored nation trade with European Union, then there is a huge chance that trade dependency on China could be leveraged, and then China may be made accountable to all the human rights violations, random environmental degradation, and the damage they have done not only in their country but also in occupied countries like Tibet and East Turkestan, Southern Mongolia. Therefore, it needs now time for an internationally coordinated campaign against China and make them realize this. This is not a design against China. This is a design to liberate China from the dictatorial regime, and therefore hope to gain some sense of freedom and democracy within China, number one, and then China's occupied countries like Tibet, East Turkestan, Southern Mongolia, and the threat on Hong Kong and Taiwan too can be relieved if we are able to bring freedom and democracy in China.
Well, that's a tall order, Mr. Kranti. That's a very tall order. And China also happens to be a permanent member. It's slipped through the cracks all these years, decades now. India was also offered the UN permanent seat in 1953, but according to the information which is available on social media, our then Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru declined it. It would have been a different atmosphere had India been a permanent member of the United Nations, a body which is losing faith and losing its efficiency every now and then. But the state of affairs is such, Mr. Kranti, that the world cannot live without China in terms of its corporate greed and its need to make money. That is the problem that needs to be addressed first.
This is a massive problem with what I call the rest of the world. China on one side and rest of the world. In China, they have a leadership, they have a party, dictator party, who knows its goals for next 2 years, next 10 years, next 50 years, and who have consistency of applying. In the West, especially, unfortunately, although we call America as a democracy, actually a lot of powers and the decision-making, those institutions have been occupied by their the corporates. And China has practically bought out the corporates because these corporations make money from China. They care a hoot for American interests or European interests or the rest of the world or human rights. So I think the world today has to liberate itself from the corporates and the corporate greed, which is occupying the democratic systems. What is happening today, Twitter or Facebook, WhatsApp we are watching today, Google, it's a part of that. All these powers are somewhere working together to topple the democracies. And this is exactly what they are doing in India. This subject may sound different from what we are talking, but it is China's designs that the democratic system in the world is losing. And it is losing because the real power holders in democratic systems are corporates, and corporates are managed by China. So I think this is for the world now to look back, take a stock of their own democratic system. The democracy in America should be real democracy. In Europe, it should be. And they should be in a position to take China head on. If they fail to do it, this is the last chance. I am afraid after this, leave aside these governments, even the corporates of the West will suddenly realize that they have become slaves of China. So it is in the interest of democracies, in the interest of corporate houses to join hands and fight back China with all the might. Even if you are losing some money for some time, the corporates should not worry. If corporates are worrying, the government should stop worrying about the corporates. And they should come out with laws about the international trade and all other issues related and take China head on. Otherwise, at the risk of being repetitive, I say this is the last chance for the civilized world to save itself from China.
Absolutely. Quick closing comments from Namgyal and Tenzin, and then we wrap up. 30 seconds to each one of you, and then we close the debate. Namgyal, starting with you.
I would say the people and government of India must now realize that the expansionist strategy of the Chinese Communist Party is worse than ever. Hence, the people of the country has been saying that China had once upon a time in 1962 attacked India because of the presence of His Holiness and Tibetans in India. Now we must know that it's not that reason. The reason is the strategy of the Chinese Communist Party, and India is equally answerable to the people. That India has to protect itself. The people of India, not for ourselves and not for the Tibetan cause per se. Hence, we must challenge China, if not for the Tibetans, but to protect India. So this is what I want to say, that make the cause against China not about pro-Tibet, but pro-India.
All right, Tenzin, 30 seconds for you, and then we conclude.
Yes. Now, we have a new president and a new set of parliamentary members, 45 members of parliament, and soon they're going to take official positions. They already have a policy seeking autonomy, but I think now it's time for the Tibetan Member of Parliament to revisit this and look at the long-term interests of Tibet. We have been speaking for autonomy, thinking that it is congruent to or adherent to Government of India's policy of One China policy. But now I think India must also start to speak up for India's long-term interests, which is to recreate Tibet as a free and independent country, and therefore protect India from China. And ultimately, if Tibet regains independence and becomes the safe buffer zone between India and China, it is for everybody's harmony and peace.
All right. On that note, I don't need to top that. You've concluded that beautifully, Tenzin.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.